Hey everybody, this is just a quick impromptu tutorial on making drum sets in Faceplant, and not the design part of it, the setup part of it. One thing that I've had trouble with Faceplant is being able to make per note, per key triggers for certain things, saying like triggering the kick on one note and the snare on another. Recently I figured out a method that I think is pretty simple to set up, just takes a little bit of time, that allows you to have individual triggers for different keys. So first off, here's just using built-in kick, snare, and hi-hat samples, what it sounds like. And you'll notice that each of these samplers was triggering separately. They weren't all triggering on every note. So there's a couple of things that we need to do in order to get this going. The first thing first is we want to turn the harmonic on everything down to 0. By doing this, we are disabling the natural setup of Faceplant to trigger on every note down. So this will only trigger now on specific things. And then we're going to set the level to each of these samplers down to 0. We're going to modulate these later. And then I swapped out the normal envelope for a curve set permanently to 100%. You could do whatever you want, but if you have the envelope, then you're also going to have to worry about the note on and off messages that it's sending. Okay, you're also going to set your shift, make sure that's set to 0. We're going to modulate this, and then we're going to go down to our generator section, or not our generator section, our modulator section. And I have this first group of modulators that I'm calling the drum note gate. So there's 3 parts of this that are important. The first thing is the note gate. We're going to set this to positive, and this is just checking note on and off. So every time we hit any key, this is going to trigger. So now I'm hitting up higher in the keyboard outside the range I've specified. That's why you can't hear anything. This we're going to modulate over here. So we'll table this for a second, and we're going to go to our note modulator. You're going to set this, I've set it to B2, which is just below where kicks normally are on MIDI drums for me. And I set this range to 12, so it's only going to go up about an octave. Set it to positive, and then we're going to modulate a scale modulator with the output of the note. So the note modulator goes to the scale. We're going to just leave this at 1 for now. I've been messing around with setting this to higher values for greater degree of keyboard spread. But right now we're just going to leave it at 1. This is all going to modulate our individual instrument modulators. So let's open our kick, and all that we have in here is a remap modulator and an envelope. So we'll close these. So you see that we have our scale going directly to our remap, and in the remap we have one very specific on, and everything else is down at -100. So if you set the vertical scale to 24 ticks, you can then start to figure out where this note is going, right? And then you're going to set this to that 100% for that specific note. You can see right here when I'm hitting that C1, it's going up here. Give me a second, put on some headphones. So don't need to hear everything. All right, so remap is probably the most important part of this to get our individual note choices. See, I'm alternating between C1 and E1, and we're only hearing the note, the kick drum, when I hit C1. All right, so now you're going to take that remap modulator, and you're going to modulate the trigger of an envelope. I set the sustain all the way down, set the decay however you want it. You could also do something kind of like this, turn your release off. At this point, you're just designing your kick the way you want it to sound, right? Okay, so that's just going to modulate that. You're going to need to right-click on this arrow and adjust the threshold to be the appropriate value. You notice we can get a little bit punchier attack if we go below the threshold. But yeah, so you're going to modulate the envelope with the remap, and then you're going to take the output of this envelope, make sure it's set to positive, take the output of that envelope and set it to the level, modulate the level of the instrument you're working on, set it to 100. That will then bring the generator up when the note is triggered, and it will trigger the release when you let go of the note. All right, so going back earlier, what you'll notice if we turn this note gate off, you'll notice we're not getting anything. What I'm using for the note gate is to modulate both of these modulators. Let me see, where's it going? So I'm taking the note gate itself and we're using the multiplicative modulator to modulate the remap. And what that does, when you let go of the note, it drops the remap down. So if we look over at the snare one, for example, we're going back. We're going to fix this. Okay, so what the note gate here does is it lets us know when we've released the key. That's the primary purpose here. If you right-click on the trigger for the envelope, you'll notice that we have a multiplicative modulation coming from the note gate. So what this does is if the note gate is positive, if it's at 100%, the remap will scale 100%. So what this allows us to do is figure out when the key is released. If we were to turn this off, you'll notice we're not getting anything. What I started to realize by not using the note gate, if we just used the remap, the note would never release, and you'd have to actually play a different note to come back to it. So this is basically what's triggering the on and off of the envelope. So it's pretty similar to a typical trigger on a modular synth. You also notice there's a frequency modulation coming from the remap. And the reason why this is important, if we disable this, just let that be normal, and then we set the harmonic to 1, you'll notice it doesn't matter what key I'm playing, it's triggering the generator. It's triggering the sampler. So we need to have this on and set our harmonic to 0 in order to get it to behave like a typical drum machine. All right, so you repeat that process a few times. Do the same thing for your snare. Do the same thing for your hi-hat. And then you get this. So yeah, hopefully that's informative. I hope I didn't ramble too much. I'll be dropping this preset template for drums somewhere. I don't exactly know where yet. But the hope is that this helps some people make some more interesting drum sets within Phase Plant, or even some more note-dependent instruments that don't need to use the full range of the keyboard. Some other applications of this could be creating instruments that trigger different samples at higher pitches versus lower. So a typical like note split sort of thing, like you would do on older workstation keyboards if you wanted to say have a bass synth in the bottom half of the keyboard and a lead synth in the top. This is a way to make that happen. Yeah, if you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the comments. I hope this was interesting, and I hope it's informative. Take care.